Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dylan Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to the Video Attic new release roundup. If you're new here, first of all, welcome. What we do is we talk about new physical media releases. We go back and forth, and we talk about like what we think is, the most noteworthy releases and should be on your radar. So with that, I'm going to kick off with a movie that I was really pumped for because I missed it in theaters, and that is The Woman King on 4K. And
That
so,
one's been racking up a lot of Best Picture nominations from a bunch of critics groups in the past couple of weeks.
oh yeah. So there is the inside. You've seen this, right?
I have not yet. It's going to be watched this week, but I have not caught it just yet.
Nice. Well, I was definitely like really excited to see it in like the best format possible because I mean the scope is definitely pretty epic. So I will say that the plot for me is just kind of so-so, but I think what really elevates this movie is certainly the cast, the fantastic direction, and the production design. Um, Not only that, but like just the action sequences are so good and they're not like so bloated that they sort of like take away from like the through line, but it really just is like nicely paced, well choreographed. um One thing that is kind of weird about this movie is it is PG-13, which is unusual because there's a lot of violence, but it's very toned down. And it don't get me wrong, it's not that that makes a good movie, but it almost sort of undercuts the like stakes. If you I don't know, I feel like you need that like visceral kind of um like moments to really sell it. But I don't know, it's fine. Like for somebody like my husband that doesn't like a lot of gore, like this is kind of perfect. So yeah, I
Yeah,
really like.
for someone for someone who in their Instagram handle has Gorehound in it, I think you're a little biased.
Well, um, yeah, but no, for real though, I do, like gory movies, but again, I don't think it necessarily detracts if it's not. I just think that like for a movie that's about like battles and war, it's a little bit odd, I guess, but I
Yeah.
can see that they wanted a more like general audience to see this. So, but yeah, it didn't. Again, that doesn't detract. I think it's really good. Again, if you're somebody that's like not into like super ultra violence, then this is probably even better because it's not that
Yeah.
graphic. So yeah, it looks fantastic. I mean, it's a newer movie and like it really delivers. This is again such a visually beautiful film. So the colors really pop, everything's really crisp. There's not like everything's just really nicely balanced. And yeah, it sounds fantastic as well. And so I forgot to mention there is a digital code in here. It's not wasn't in there when I opened it, but yours will have it. And yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, that's one I'm definitely excited to catch up on. I'm a big fan of Gina Prince Bythewood, who's the director ever since like back with Love and Basketball days. So I'm really
Hmm.
excited to check this out. I've heard a lot of great things, so definitely top of my list right now. Going to my first title, I'm going to Shout Factory, and this is a much different tone. This is A Walk to Remember. uh, with From the Nicholas Sparks book, Mandy Moore and Shane West, and like low key, I was really stoked about this just because this is like a favorite of my wife's, and she's been like stuck with this DVD for like a couple decades now. So I was glad to see them finally announce a high definition release of this. And it is one that I also like pretty well too. I'm open to like the tear jerkers and like kind of the more like sentimental romantic type movies. I know we often joke about like, oh, this is a Dillon type of movie. This is yeah, but yeah, I'm open hearted. I'm ready just for those emotions. And this is one I have seen several times throughout my lifetime. And every time I do like kind of get emotional and just like it is a very sad movie, but it's also just like a really nice movie. Um, it's a kind of a standard plot, but once you kind of like learn some of the background, which I kind of learned from the special features, it's not so like trite. I mean, there are elements of that, but it's about a Shane West plays kind of a ne'er do well kid who's like in like a like a friend group that's like they're always kind of getting into trouble, and the movie starts out with them trying like doing some kind of like initiation kind of prank with this kid who gets like really injured, and in order to like avoid kind of like serious like jail time basically, he has to agree to like these series of like basically like community service driven things like just like tutoring things, but also like being in the school play and like just trying to like basically rehabilitate him instead of like punishing him, which I think is good. But throughout this, he meets Jamie, played by Mandy Moore, who is kind of she's the Baptist pastor's daughter, and they kind of form like a hesitant but unlikely romance. Like there's like kind of that antagonistic thing starting out, but it kind of blooms into thing. But where this gets a twist is in the weepy part, she has leukemia, so they're kind of living on borrowed time. And what this movie really is just her them getting to know each other, but also her kind of like rehabilitating his life and like showing him that there can be like better things out there and he can have better for his life. He doesn't have to be kind of like that ne'er-do-well kid, but also she is also kind of given a very like a nice different, like she is able to experience love even whenever she is facing this like dark like path that she is on with her diagnosis. And where this kind of like I like the movie as it is, and it is like there are some cheesy moments and stuff, but there's also just a lot of really nice moments. But whenever I was watching the special features, which includes like a new 32-minute interview inspired by his sister who had a cancer diagnosis and kind of also had a similar thing where like she had like a romance come into her life around the time of her cancer diagnosis, and it just kind of like inspired him to write this. So like it is kind of grounded in kind of a truth, like an emotional truth, which I really appreciate. And it did make me like the movie even more, which I already did like it. So that's nice that like along with other stuff that he revealed in his new interview, I really liked. There's also a two commentary tracks which are ported over from previous releases. One with the director Adam Shankman and the two stars, and then there's also another commentary track with Nicholas Sparks and this screenwriter. And then there's like a music video and everything. So overall, I really like this movie. It's not for everyone. You have to like want kind of like the weepy, sentimental type of drama, which I like. But this release, I'm glad to have it in high definition. It doesn't note as being from like a new 4K restoration or anything. It seems to be kind of like a slightly older master, but it looks nice, especially compared to the DVD that I've watched several times in my lifetime. There's still like little bitty specks here and there, which probably could have been cleaned up with the new master, but I think that there's probably a limited audience for this that would like care for it's like pristine. But I want it, but it looks really nice. It sounds really good. And they did include some new special features. So if you happen to be in this audience that likes this movie, it is good to have this on Blu-ray. It looks really nice. But I understand if you're just like calling me sentimental and like chuckling behind your back. I don't care. I love it. It's fine.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but you never know.
Yeah. I would just say like compared to like most Nicholas Sparks adaptation, like this and The Notebook are like the two best ones in my
Mm.
opinion. He has some like really rocky stuff, but I do really like this one.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. So my next one is one that I was so excited for. Because I'm a big fan of these movies, and that is the Silent Night, Deadly Night collection. So first of all, let's just take in this beautiful slipcover. It is really nice. So here's the back. As you can see, it is loaded with some really great new features. So what was fun was last year. So I last year I did a series called "You'll Be Sorry," which is was talking about some fun, maybe underrated holiday horror movies, and like I had not seen any of the well, I've only seen up until that point, I only seen Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. So I hadn't seen the rest of the sequels. Even though I've heard a lot of like really good things about them. Well, relatively, like so bad they're good kind of. But
Yeah.
so I took a deep dive last year into 3, 4, and 5, and that was a lot of fun. So was so excited that this came out. So I'm gonna open this up. There is a digital copy that's not in there now. There's the discs. It's like a gatefold, and yeah. So I'm assuming you haven't seen these.
No, not yet. It's on my list for this season.
um Well, okay, so yeah, they are when you talk about like really strange horror franchises, I feel like, you know, this is the one that probably gets the least talked about, even though it is like definitely the weirdest like horror franchise. So part three, I would say is maybe my least favorite. It kind of doesn't like all of the other Silent Night, Deadly Night movies sort of lean into the camp because they sort of know what it is. But part three weirdly kind of takes itself very like a little bit too seriously. I will say that the only really great thing about this is Bill Moseley is in this. This is his character. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, like he kind of brings the kind of campiness this movie needs, but it's very sparse and it's a little bit disappointing. I still would like, even though these movies aren't great, I feel like none of them are like boring. I always was entertained. So part four is directed by Brian Usna. He is a friend of the channel. I've interviewed him a few times. He's really awesome. Definitely a character. So this is probably maybe the weirdest entry. Well, okay, 4 and 5 are probably tied for like weirdest, but this weirdly enough has the least to do with Christmas. Like there's maybe a little bit of Christmas sprinkled into like this really strange like cult film, not like a cult film, but like a film about like a cult.
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away, but if you've ever seen the movie Society, this almost feels like a spiritual sequel to that, which is not surprising because Usna directed that as well, and this also has special effects from Screaming Mad George. So yeah, this movie may not be like the best as far as coherent plot, but there isn't a really engaging mystery here that hooks you in, and it's just so weird and surreal. And I won't spoil it, but just it goes so far off the rails. It's great. So maybe my favorite one is part 5. So a little bit of trivia. Um, Mickey Rooney famously kind of like lambasted the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, and was like, it's a travesty, blah, blah, blah. Well, flash forward to part 5, and he's starring in one. This again, this isn't written or directed by Brian Usna, but it's written by him. And it kind of is why I feel like this has like an old school Empire film vibe. But yeah, this is like a weird like retelling of Pinocchio with a little bit of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein thrown in,
Okay.
which is kind of apt because we're getting a lot of Pinocchio adaptations
Mhm.
lately. So this kind of falls into that category. But yeah, there is like Mickey Rooney giving it his all. But
Mhm.
yeah, this collection is awesome. Overall, the quality picture wise is fine. I think part four probably looks the best. But I've had these on DVD, and of course, this is a huge upgrade. Like I was even able to go back and just kind of compare since I watched these last year on DVD and then again this year on Blu-ray. So yeah, they're not stellar, but Vestron's never really I think given like a horrible restoration so far. So um I love the fact that these are packed with new features. I really love commentary tracks, and we get a commentary track for each movie, featurettes. It's packed. This is like maybe one of my favorite releases of this year. Like, I love these
Wow.
movies. I love that they're like given like the deluxe treatment. Like that's so awesome. So, uh also this is on sale right now for 11 bucks on Amazon. So, you got to pick it up.
Nice. Yeah, I whenever that was announced, I think I read that the fifth movie that you said Mickey Rooney was in wasn't even originally a Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. It was just retitled like after he had shot it to be a part of it. So he was like really pissed off that he got like roped into being like a part of the franchise when he wanted to basically disavow it from the beginning. So it's just like they're like, oh, we have this horror movie with Mickey Rooney. They're here, Silent Night, Deadly Night 5. Here we go.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, he got paid, so
Yeah, he might not have been happy about it, but he was happy about the money, I'm sure. Getting to my next title, it's a title from Lionsgate, and that is "The Minute You Wake Up Dead,"
that's
which
not good.
is yeah, one of these movies that it's not quite direct to DVD, direct to video, but it might as well be because it's just like played in theaters for like 2 seconds, and then it for like a handful of screens, and now it's here. But so it's basically that type of quality. I usually get brave and check out like a couple of these movies from Lionsgate every year. Like a lot of them I just know to avoid, but sometimes they'll catch my eye for one reason or another. And I guess that reason this time was like Morgan Freeman. Like yes, he's in here, so I'm like, I know he's been kind of like slumming it a little bit recently, but I'll try it out. And I do like Jamie Alexander as well. She was great in like the show Blind Spot and then like the Thor movies as well. So I was like, I'll try it out. And it's fine. It's not great. I've seen worse of this type of movie, but I like this is nowhere near like something you need to race out to see, in my opinion. It's kind of like a twisty plot that kind of basically what it is Cole Hauser here. He plays kind of like a kind of a shady businessman. He is basically lost a bunch of people in the town money in this like financial endeavor. So he has like basically a mounting enemies list, and then he meets well, he knows, but he kind of reconnects with this girl from his past, played by Jamie Alexander, who's like a works at a restaurant, and they kind of start to form a kind of like a romantic relationship. And then one night, her father gets killed, and the police are uncertain of whether or not like um, the killer he happens to live next door to her, but whether the killer was trying to actually target him or if the actual victim was supposed to be her father. And then it becomes like a twisty game of like people like having like hidden motives for like certain people's deaths and like hiring different killers to like enact like assassinations and stuff. It's a very twisty thing of like people are hiding stuff from one another and then like revealing secrets and blah blah blah. It's not complicated. It's just complicated to explain because it's just so like so you've seen it. Like it's just like yes, you've seen this type of like double cross and like hidden reveals and like dumb twisty kind of neo noir type stuff, but it's there's some good elements to it. Overall, I probably won't be racing to revisit this revisit this ever again. Even like Morgan Freeman's in this, and he does the bare minimum to get his paycheck, and that's fine, I guess. So yeah, overall, if you're like really hurting for some like drama, like crime drama, sure, try it out. But if you're like, we're in the thick of like award season, Oscar season, and there's so much great television out there, you probably don't need to really check this out. But it's here, and it's like I said, it's not the worst. I talked about this movie also with Morgan Freeman called Paradise Highway a couple months ago. This is better than that, but it's still not great. So Lionsgate, you tricked me again with some big actors. I don't fall for the Bruce Willis ones anymore, but like Morgan Freeman got me. So the minute you wake up dead, it is a movie, and there's no, there's like a theatrical trailer, and that's all. There's not even a commentary track. So go with God if you decide to try this out.
Yeah, it sounds like nobody wanted to talk about that movie. So,
Yeah.
I oftentimes I will like we both love documentaries. I love stuff that I know little to nothing about. Love Charlie is my next film, and this was really cool. I love highlighting stuff that is probably gonna fly under the radar, but actually turns out to be really interesting. So this also has a cool little connection to a movie you're going to be covering soon, which is My Best Friend's Wedding. Little teaser for a future episode, but this chef is featured in that movie. He's playing himself. So that's a fun little tease again. But
I'd be on the lookout for him.
Yeah, he definitely stands out. He's basically sort of a proto Gordon Ramsay, which I think is fascinating because this again details the life of the famous and sometimes infamous Charlie Trotter. He's definitely again like sort of the original bad boy chef, but like he's kind of credited with like bringing really high class elevated food to America. Like probably not the first, but he really like he put Chicago on the map with his restaurant, and like all of the top critics around the globe kind of like recognized how like important and influential he was. But I don't want to give too much away, but I will say that it's really sad because it's definitely like the biggest, like the highest highs and then just the lowest lows of like what was such a brilliant career. So this is pretty fascinating. And actually kind of made me want to, because some other famous chefs are like featured pretty prominently. Emeril Lagasse, for instance, he's pictured there. They were pretty good friends. Wolfgang Puck is interviewed in this, but it kind of makes me want to like check out like documentaries on more like famous chefs. I feel like it's really fascinating. Again, I love checking out stuff that I don't know a lot about, but it like makes me excited to maybe like dig in more. So this is pretty interesting. Like I said, I do like how they kind of like did a deep dive on this guy, and like it's again something that I necessarily wouldn't think like would really captivate me, but I think it's pretty good.
That's awesome. If you're looking for movies kind of like that, it's not exactly like specifically chef, but I think you'd probably like the Anthony Bourdain documentary Roadrunner, which came out a couple of years ago. So I recommend that. It's also out on DVD.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just gonna say that Anthony Bourdain is featured a little bit in this.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
cool.
so and that's also a tragic story, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of tragic things. This week, like I started out with Walk to Remember, which is sort of lighter. I mean, there's some darkness, but like this week, I it's right before Christmas. I'm getting like a lot of like disturbing horror based stuff in my system, and I'm just like, what am I doing to myself? This just should be a joyous time of year, but it is what it is. So my next title is once again more spooky based. It wasn't like horrific, but I think it's a really effective watch. This is from 101 Films, and this is Ghostwatch. Which let me show you this packaging because it's super impressive to me. It comes with like this is on the back, and it kind of like shows you like all the special features and everything. But like this is like a thick collection here. And here's the back, and so here you have the disc here. Once again, here's the back. The interior here, and yeah, I believe the reversible cover art's just like the outside, pretty close to the outside. So you got this here, and this is kind of similar in a lot of ways to another 101 Films release I did earlier this summer, The Last Broadcast, which also had some pretty, didn't have quite this level of packaging, but it was also really nice. There's some like little cards here, like production cards, a booklet with an essay here, or yeah, I think yeah, this is the one with the essay, I believe, and there's also the script, like a reproduction of the script, with like notes from like the writer and everything. So a very lavish release from 101 Films. And so I mentioned the script, which is interesting because whenever this first aired, this is their product from that aired first on, I believe, the BBC, one of the channels over in England. So if it's not the BBC, it's the one I know the most, and I'm pretty sure it was the BBC. So this had a kind of the effect when Orson Welles first did the War of the Worlds broadcast back in the day, which sent everyone into a panic because they thought aliens were invading because they didn't know any better when they were listening to the radio. This had kind of the same effect because basically this is scripted, but people who saw this thought it was just basically a special like broadcast news special on ghosts, where these like they were sending these reporters to investigate this like potential paranormal like happening at this residence with like this mother and two daughters, where there's like different weird things have been happening, and then things. I don't want to like reveal what happens, but things do happen. Like the action escalates. I'll just say that. And people really thought that there was like some paranormal stuff going on, and people were like losing their minds over in England. But like, even so, I never really like was frightened by anything, but I did find this to be a really fascinating like artifact of like kind of like it's not exactly found footage because it's just like it's like a faux broadcast, but like kind of that kind of era of just like film or like that genre of filmmaking where they've constructed this lavish like basically replica of a news set, and it's very like convincing of what this actually is. They have like fake experts on to testify about different paranormal like activities, and they never really. What I really admire about this is they never really overplay it. They act like it is a normal television broadcast. They don't try to like heighten, like bring an eccentric personality to be an expert. They just bring like a woman on who's like seems to be a level-headed person, and there's like so it's I could see where it could be convincing to people. But then like whenever things do escalate, it never escalates to a point where it's just like you are seeing like digital effects, ghost, or anything like that. It's all kind of within the realm of possibility, which I think is what makes it the most effective. I will say people who are going into this, hearing about people freaking out about it, they might be like, what, why were they? Because it's like, it is very straightforward for a lot of time and very subtle. Like you're watching a news special, but it's I was interested in what was happening, and then like it builds to this very like interesting, satisfying finale. So you have to be patient with it. I will admit, like some people might find this a little bit boring, but I thought it was really interesting. Similar to the last broadcast release, this is newly released on Blu-ray, but the way it was filmed, basically like on video, this isn't going to be the most pristine looking release. It does look like kind of like an old video that has been like seemingly restored and cleaned up, but it has that video look. So you're not going to have like the like film grain or anything, like a lot of deep textures. It's in high definition, but it's just like it's looking the best it could possibly look with the format it is, like with the source material. So I admire what they've done with this. It looks good. It sounds really good as well. This includes like a pretty nice array of special features. There is a 48-minute retrospective on this, which is pretty comprehensive. They get a lot of people to like provide interviews, and there are also 2 commentary tracks on here, as well as like a array of other like trailers and different little small featurettes here and there. So 101 Films has made like a really nice set for fans of this, and I know people were super over the moon whenever I saw that this was first announced. I saw a lot of comments like, "Oh, I never expected this on Blu-ray." So it is here. They have released it in the U.S. This is usually largely like an overseas label, but they do release a few things in the U.S. So we did get it. So rejoice if you have been wanting this. It's a really cool release.
Yeah, that was one that I was very excited about because, as you say, it was notoriously hard to find here in the U.S. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of glory hole talk, which was distracting.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
I know that means something completely different over there, but still, uh,
yeah.
and anyways, but yeah, it's I definitely agree. It's I don't know if it was maybe just overhyped, but not particularly scary, but pretty engaging and interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But we're going from a really good movie to a not good movie,
Ooh,
and that is The Most Dangerous Game, um, which I didn't have a lot of high hopes, but it still wasn't very good. Um, so yeah, this is a new adaptation of I think it was maybe a play or a novel. I can't remember which.
I think
But
it was a novel.
okay. But yeah, and it's been there's been many adaptations of it. There was one in the 30s that was like excellent. But anyways, this is not. This is a very it's very by the numbers. It really lacks, I think, the flair, innovation, and a sense of its own identity. It really never takes the core of the story and sort of recontextualizes it. Um, the time period and the setting, I thought they were going to do something kind of interesting with it, but they just never do. And yeah, the acting is it's not really good. Casper Van Dien is doing a horrible German accent, and it's really something. um, the rest of the cast is very uneven. I love seeing Bruce Dern and stuff. I actually got to meet him, which was really cool, but he was just this was a paycheck. And listen, uh he's done fantastic work. He doesn't need to really try anymore. Just cash that check, man. Like
Yeah.
but yeah, Judd Nelson's in this. Again, he's fine. Everybody's just uneven, and it seems like nobody's really excited to be doing this project. Everything is very lethargic. Like even the action is just kind of meh. Um so this does have a few featurettes. It didn't add anything to my appreciation of the film. Again, I just kind of wish it would have pushed its themes and settings more because you know the time period it was set, it has some interesting ideas, but everything just is so lackluster, just you know, from acting, from the production design and editing, it's all just kind of there. It just feels like a TV movie, but
Mhm.
you know, even more sort of meh.
Yeah, this was one I saw it pop up for like I could potentially review it, and I was just like, I there's only so many hours in the day. I don't need to waste it on this. I knew it wasn't going to be good, so I didn't waste time.
Yeah, I mean I probably felt that way too, but I find the like I find it interesting of what some people can do with the most dangerous game. So I was
Mhm.
like hoping that they would maybe do something interesting with it, but no.
Sometimes we just do this to ourselves. Like I said, with the minute you wake up dead, like I knew, but I did it anyway. So we just do this to ourselves. But yeah, anyway, my next title, it isn't quite like this because like I had hopes for this movie, but this is kind of an inconsistent effort. This is from Scorpion Releasing, and this is Cold Heaven, which I was very interested in this one because it's by from director Nicholas Roeg, who did Don't Look Now and The Man Who Fell to Earth and Performance. So it's a pretty nice pedigree here. And then it has a bunch of people I like. It has Teresa Russell, who people fans of the Warner Archive might have seen her opposite Dustin Hoffman in Straight Time, which they released last year, which was a really fun, great release. There's Mark Harmon. Will Patton plays a priest, which whenever I started this, I did not know there was going to be a priest in here because what it starts out as, Teresa Russell, she plays a woman who she is married to a doctor. They are off away at a conference. She has been having an affair on her husband with a different doctor, and she is just on the verge of leaving him until they are like out on like out to sea on like on a boat. He goes out into the water, and then a distracted boat driver ends up hitting him and killing him. And so she's kind of left kind of like grief stricken. She had this secret where she was cheating on him. She was about to leave him, but also her husband has just died, and she's kind of reckoning with those feelings. But then also, uh, her husband, who's in who's supposed to be in this morgue, suddenly the body goes missing. So it's just kind of like, oh, what happened? Is he really dead? What is going on? Is this going to turn into like a kind of like a maybe like a Hitchcockian thriller where she's kind of being torn own guilt over her like infidelities and like what that manifests as. What this actually turns into, and I won't kind of give everything away or anything. Nicholas Roeg, he kind of starts to explore the place of religion, and it kind of like turns into kind of like a point of like people how they deal with grief and that the place of religion in their grief and whether uh like whether believers like who should be forgiven for their transgressions and stuff. So it's very, I will just say, her husband, like this is early on. He does come back, but you're not really sure why he is back or for what his purpose is, and he's not really sure either. And you're not sure like is he like has he was he never dead? Is he like been resurrected? Is he all in her head? You kind of start to wonder that, but this turns into kind of like a religious tale that never really quite comes together because there's a lot of like there's like the infidelity like mystery kind of thing like aspect going on, then there's this whole like religious aspect going on, and then there's some like other minor character stuff, and it kind of doesn't seem completely cohesive. And like I did kind of feel like I received some tonal whiplash. I was like, oh, I thought we were going down this road, but then we did make a hard left down this road where Nicholas he's wanting to confront audiences' beliefs on like a higher power, and I was just like, okay, so I need to rewatch this again to see how it like kind of plays and when I kind of know where it's going. But on this first viewing, it was just kind of like a bit of a whiplash for me, and that is often a downfall in me. It's hard for me to just like roll with the punches sometimes. But this release, it looks pretty good. It doesn't seem like a brand new master, but it looks nice overall. There's not really much in the way of special features. There's just a theatrical trailer, which this is one especially. I would have loved to heard a commentary track from someone because it probably would have helped like put into context some of the questions I have about this. But if you're a fan of the director or like any of these performers, it is a good release. But just as a movie, it's a little bit inconsistent. It's still a lot of good stuff in it, which had me like engaged. But when I got to the end, I was like, what did I just watch? So I'm going to give it another watch before I officially review it for the site. But this first watch, I was just like, I'm not sure if I like it all came together.
Yeah, I mean, I like that director, so I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Mhm.
So my next one is one that I was really looking forward to, and that is Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. And
I've only
now
seen the remake, so I'm
this
interested to hear what you think of this.
oh you've seen this one, right?
I, I've only seen the remake. I haven't seen the original, so I want to know what you think of this one.
Oh, okay. I'm the opposite. I haven't seen the remake, but yeah, so when people talk about really groundbreaking 70s films, especially like set in New York, I feel like this movie doesn't really get talked about enough. Uh it is fast paced, it is gritty, it has like a dream cast. Like look at this cast. Like that is amazing. Like Robert Shaw, I believe this is just before Jaws.
Oh,
Walter
cool.
Matthau, Martin Balsam, just everybody's amazing in this. So basically, as you probably can see here, it's about a train being taken hostage, and it's just this like tense hostage situation, but there's like this really interesting like dark humor that's kind of sprinkled throughout that you might not really be expecting, but I think really works. You were talking about like tonal inconsistencies, and I think like this actually makes that work with a little bit of levity to sort of break up some of the like tenser like not bleak, but a little bit more like harrowing stuff. So it does actually have a really nice balance. Like it's by no means a comedy, but I like the humor is sort of like present to kind of balance things out. Robert Shaw is great. I know like his best movie's Jaws, but like this is probably like a second. Like he's really giving it his all. And apparently, we were just talking about this, but uh, all the code names are colors, like Mr. like Pink, Mr. Gray. So this was something that was uh, homaged, borrowed, ripped off for Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Um, I'm being tongue in cheek. I don't think he rips stuff off. I like the homages that he does. But yeah, so if you ever kind of curious like where Tarantino got the idea to like do the color code names, it's from this movie. So yeah, this is packed with great features. Also, I want to say that this looks fantastic. There's a lot of like darkly lit scenes because like we're down in like a train tunnel, and I've seen this like many times before, but seeing it in 4K, especially like there's darkly lit scenes, you can really tell this kind of benefits from this upgrade. So yeah, the grain's not very heavy, but it does still have that nice kind of film-like look. It's not like overly processed, which is nice. Colors really pop. Just taking in the gritty kind of New York setting is great, especially when it's like remastered just nicely. So yeah, everything about this movie is great. I am so excited that they released this. And as always, if you want the slipcover, you want to get it soon. And I'm OCD. I got to have all of these in the slipcover.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I remember watching the remake in theaters, which was probably a decade ago now, but I remember actually enjoying that. So I imagine this would probably be even better. So I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah, and I'm excited to check out the remake because I've heard good things. Like that it's one of the few remakes that are actually pretty good comparatively.
Yeah, so we can each watch the other one and
There
then
you
like
go.
compare. Yeah. Before I move on to my next title, I have a question for you. I know this is a little bit out of format, but correct me if I'm wrong. Did you recently do a video on the film Blood Feast?
um, I don't think like the original.
No, there was like a horror movie that you did around Thanksgiving that was like
Oh, Blood Freak.
Blood Free. Okay,
Yeah.
then never mind. So this was completely because I was like, I had this in my mind because this is from the director of Blood Feast, and I was like, ooh, that'd be fun if like Mike just covered this. Never mind, audience. This should have been an offline conversation. But this leads up to my next pick, the Unearthed Classics La Petite Mort. So from the director of Blood Feast. So yeah, from Unearthed Classics. And so, okay. This is a lot. And so, okay, I'm going to issue a trigger warning. So anyone who doesn't want to see like completely disturbing imagery, look away. So mom, like look away for like 10 seconds. Here's the reverse cover art here. So you got some scalping going on. So yeah, put that away. Okay, you're safe. We're good. So yeah, I I got on a run recently with Unearthed Classics where I'm like, okay, things haven't been that bad recently. I've been watching a lot of really interesting movies from them. They've been like a little bit bloody and stuff, but like I got a little overconfident and everything. And then this one shows up. I'm like, okay, let's try this out. This is it's a movie, but it's more of an endurance test. It's just basically the director just like pushing you to just want to turn off the film with how like violent it is. But which I've had those types of movies in like the past, and I have kind of mixed feelings on them. But this one doesn't really, for me, kind of elevate itself by being like well produced or particularly interesting plot wise. Basically, I haven't looked into see if this is real. I assume it's not, but I didn't really care enough to look into it. It reports itself to be based on a true story about these like French or German people who are trying to travel out of the country, go on vacation, but they get like they go to like basically like an S&M club, and they make an offhanded like harsh remark to one of the like employees there, and they end up like basically the um the they get kidnapped and under the care of like this basically murder dungeon where rich people can go to like torture people and like murder them for like large sums of money. So it's not a particularly complex plot because it's like 20 minutes in, these people find themselves um like kidnapped and like under these circumstances, and basically the next hour is just them getting tortured for an hour. And it's basically like there's not even like creatively tortured that much. You do get like some really gross like genital mutilation. So you see like a dude like have his genitals cut off and stuff, and it's like it shows it, and just a lot of gross, just gross stuff. So it's just like a lot of gore, a lot of stuff. But then like the plot, like the characters, I never really cared about them because like the dialogue is so bad. One of the three characters who gets kidnapped is blind, and like her boyfriend is like planning on potentially like proposing to her on this trip, but he's having this conversation with her best friend about like how sad he is that she's blind and that she'll never get to experience like he's like, how is she going to enjoy this vacation if she can't see? Why am I even taking her on this vacation? And I'm like, this is so wild to me. What are you talking about? Like, she's been blind for a long time. Why are you just now reckoning with it? Was so weird. Anyway, this movie's got me fired up because I'm not against these types of movies. I've watched and reviewed a Serbian film, and I didn't love that movie. I liked it a lot more than I liked this movie because it is like really well shot. Actually, it is very disturbing, but like it's like really well shot, and it has like really like a really interesting story. No matter how messed up it is, it's very interesting. It's also an endurance test. This never was interesting. It was just torture. Like it was torture for the audience, for the people. Like I didn't really have fun. Like it wasn't a fun type of like torture porn. So this is for like the most ardent of gore hounds, and I know I did this to myself. People out there, some of you are gonna love this. It was just not for me because it just wasn't well done. It was like the worst acting, the worst production values. It was just torture. And that being said, this is a good release for the movie if you happen to be a fan. The like I said, the production value is not great. It seems like this is the best like the you can make the source look from what I can tell. This does include a pretty impressive making up featurette. It's like 51-minute making up featurette. It does have like 2 interviews with like some of the creatives. It has a commentary track, some deleted scenes. Okay, yeah, it's a well packed release if you do like this, but I did not particularly enjoy it, and I'm not sure if I would ever watch it again. Probably not, based on this fire reaction from me. But Unearthed Classics, you got me. You like I flew too close to the sun. I've enjoyed too many of your releases lately, and I didn't do my homework. That it was a lot.
Yeah, that does sound like a lot, and I'm trying to think of a good transition because this is the most opposite thing possible, which is Ticket to Paradise.
Did they get kidnapped and mutilated?
I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but maybe. So I'll take a look. There's and the inside. So this does have a digital copy that's just not in there right now. But yeah, so when I saw the trailer for this, it didn't look particularly great, but I kind of sometimes am in the mood for these sort of cheesy rom-coms, and um I'm not a big Julia Roberts fan, but I like George Clooney. So I was like, why not? It is pretty generic. It feels like the actors just kind of signed up for a free trip and a nice payday. And it very much feels like a tourist ad for Bali. um, and
All right.
yeah, and I will say that like it definitely leans into all the standard rom-com tropes. And I think it's part of what's interesting is it does and this is an aspect that I wish they would have leaned into more, but it kind of almost plays up the screw like old school screwball romantic comedy tropes. Again, it's not so much a pastiche of that, but it kind of has shades of that. So like that I kind of liked. But it's fine. There's definitely things that I feel like there's like plot lines that just feel like they don't really not necessarily not go anywhere, but like they don't take it, I think, as far as they could to make it like interesting or effective. It's fine. I mean, honestly, we weren't bored watching it. Like my husband and I watched it, and we definitely were like, okay, this just feels like a long tourist ad. Like some of the lines were like clearly feel like they were written by the tourism board. Um, and it's a little cynical, but frankly, that there's it feels very cynical at times. But it's like honestly, from this cover, you kind of know what you're gonna get. If you like that kind of stuff, fine. That's basically it. Doesn't give you any more, but it doesn't really give you any less. It's just it's all right. It's I don't know.
I mean, that's what I need after what I just talked about. So
I mean, this might
it's
be. I
make
mean, that
watch
would
that
definitely.
tonight.
Yeah, that would definitely be a good palate cleanser, I think.
Mhm.
Because it really is just the safest, most sanitized kind of rom com. Like,
Give it to me. I'm ready for it. My next title is from Epic Pictures, and that is Tiny Cinema.
oh,
Uh, yeah, this is. Uh, I was kind of under the wrong impression of exactly what this movie was, but it's basically kind of a version of an anthology film. It is our host this time, which I talked about Allegoria recently and how I wish they would have had like a more central figure guiding things. This movie does that, and that is by this guy here. It kind of like acts as kind of like a narrator, seemingly like someone you would find in like a David Lynch movie, kind of being weird and talking about kind of like entering you into this kind of universe where just weird stories happen. And this is okay. It has some like interesting moments, but it's not great. Basically, some of like the segment kind of descriptions, like the first segment, which is immediately pretty amusing. It's like someone makes a "that's what she said" joke, but then a guy hears it and he becomes obsessed with like who is she, and he kind of like unravels and loses his mind. So that kind of goes to some interesting places. There's a woman who's like desperate to have like love in her life, and she falls in love with a dead corpse she finds. There's a guy who meets a version of like he is like out for a delivery and he like sees that his name's on this like package that he's delivering, and he finds this guy who may or may not be a future version of himself, and there's a question of like, in order to save the world, would you have sex with your future self? So those kinds of things. So those are just like the types of like weird, like pretty amusing stories that you have in here. Some of them work, some of them don't. It's an inconsistent effort, but it is relatively short, so it's not. It's like 83 minutes long. So once you, if you're in one short that's not really working for you, it's not going to be like that much longer. I think there's probably like 5 or 6 segments here. And overall, I enjoyed it. It just wasn't the best thing I've ever seen. This Blu-ray is pretty good. It looks like as good as you'd want a modern movie. The sound, I have a problem with this label because they keep releasing their movies in Dolby Digital, like lossy audio instead of DTS. So that's kind of a pet peeve of mine because I think all movies should have lossless audio, especially if they're on Blu-ray. But it is what it is. But it sounds fine. I just wish it was lossless. And there's an 18-minute behind the scenes featurette, and some trailers. So there are some special features, and the movie is entertaining. I just lower expectations, and you'll probably be good.
yeah, that definitely sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
um, my final title is one that is really good, but it's very almost oppressive, and I'll explain. And that is Night of the Iguana. So this is based on a Tennessee Williams play of the same name. I don't know if this is true or not, but there's a story that James Gardner was actually offered the Richard Burton role in this, but he turned it down, saying, "quote This is something to the effect of this is like to Tennessee Williams for Tennessee Williams. Like it's paraphrasing,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if he actually said that, but it's a good story. But anyways, yeah, so I get what he's trying to say with this quote. Surprisingly, this movie was a big hit. It was made on a $3 million budget, which for the time was a lot, but it ended up earning 12 million. But it is very bleak. It is typical Tennessee Williams melodrama that tackles subjects like madness, religious abuse, and although it's really skirted around a lot, it's heavily implied that Burton's character has relationships with underage girls, which is very icky. Yeah, this is definitely not a movie that could have been made during the heyday of the production code. Um, the code was still technically in effect when this was being made, but it wasn't. It was all but basically dismantled. It would end 4 years after this release, but John Huston really knows how to make a great movie, and he knows how to take a heavy cast like this and get everybody on the same page, get everybody like uh, in the groove of the movie. So yeah, it is just bleak. It is almost like it's almost just soul-suckingly depressing. Everybody's just kind of trapped in their own kind of purgatory. I don't know how else to describe it. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, I really liked it. I actually found, like, was it Baby Doll, his other,
Yeah.
like, was that the Tennessee Williams one? Where,
Mhm.
yeah, I found that to be more depressing than this. Like, this is
Hmm.
depressing, but I did like this one quite a bit. I liked how the plot developed because it, like, started out as one thing and then it kind of like went into some different directions. Where I was like, oh, this is, I'm enjoying this. I was a bigger fan than I thought I'd be.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because I feel like this is a little bit bleaker than Baby Doll, but like Baby Doll I've seen a few times and it never really, I wouldn't say, I mean, Baby Doll definitely is challenging, and I think like the racial stuff in particular is really like bothering to me, but like I don't know, there's something about this that just like gets under my skin. I think that it's just Burton gives such a complex but just heartbreaking performance. I mean, everybody's great in this. I mean, it always like boggles my mind that Deborah Carr never won an Oscar for like anything. I think maybe she won maybe like a lifetime achievement award. But yeah, everybody's great. I think Ava Gardner's is amazing. Betty Davis played this on the stage for a long time. I kind of wonder what she would have been like in this in the film adaptation, but yeah, I don't know if I would change a thing. It's a great movie. I just find it a hard one to watch, not because it's not good, just because it's like, oh man, I just feel like everybody's just stuck in their own like private hell.
Yeah, it's certainly not cheerful, but yeah.
So this does have some nice featurettes that they were this I believe was ported over from the DVD release. Um, Warner Archive always sets the bar really high, and this is no exception. This looks fantastic. Like this is a movie that really like shines with its locales, and this new restoration just really, I think, um sells all of the visual sort of language in this film. Like I said, particularly it's like on locale like filming. So yeah, this is one that it just looked great, sounded great. Definitely if you like Tennessee Williams stuff, you'll like it. If you find his stuff a little bit challenging, I mean it's challenging in a good way. It's just it's not something that I would probably watch a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good release. So pick it up if you're at least a little bit interested in it. My final title is from MVD Entertainment. I'm going back to the world of documentaries. And this is Can't Be Stopped, which is a documentary basically about the graffiti movement by the same group, Can't Be Stopped, CBS. Um, and so this kind of tracks like from like the initial kind of founding of this like group in the 80s, where it's like kind of transformed into from like a street gang into more of like a artistically minded like graffiti crew, which really is interesting because it kind of broke down barriers between like races and classes, and it just kind of just people coming together to express their artistic individuality and their creativity within kind of the larger culture, and seeing that slowly being adopted as a valid art form by people. And while there was like definitely different factions who did not view it as art, they just viewed it as graffiti, just like as like tarnishing buildings. This movie is really interesting in that you do get like a lot of that history of this movement, but you also get a lot of how it kind of fits into the overall culture of like what was going on, like politically in our society, and how different like things that were going on in like our society got channeled into the artwork, and how like being part of this crew helped like kind of foster a sense of community, and how it did do a lot of good for different people. And I don't know, it's a really nice documentary. It's very interesting. It's definitely giving me a like an insight into a life that I would have never known before, and which is what great documentaries should do. So it does a really good job of giving a lot of context to what was happening at this time, and while also just like also giving a lot of like kind of like of the minutia that even fans who like already kind of know about this, they get a lot of great interviews from people who were there at the time, or like recollections from people who did know these people, like some of which have passed away in the meantime. So it is a really interesting documentary. I believe it premiered at Sundance a couple of years ago, so it's a few years old, but it's finally coming to Blu-ray. So Can't Be Stopped. There are no special features. I don't even think there's a trailer, but it does look really nice and it sounds great. I'm glad it got a Blu-ray release. It made me very happy. So NBD, thank you. This is good. If you're a documentary fan, I definitely highly recommend it.
Nice. That sounds awesome. Yeah, again, just kind of like the Charlie Trotter documentary. That's something that I don't know a lot about, but I definitely can appreciate art and do make stuff that one could consider as art, I guess. So that would be kind of neat to check that out. And I guess that does it for this week. So as always, we definitely appreciate any likes, commenting below. Let us know what you think of these releases. Are there releases that should be on our radar that maybe isn't right now? So as always, thanks for hanging out with us.